All right, recording in progress. We are good to go. Welcome again to another session, to another class. I remain your humble host, Paul Alabi, King of Personal Finance and Master Money Manager. Today's class, I'm going to be talking about the biggest issues that a lot of my clients or my students face, which is the question of should I pay off debt first or should I keep saving my money? This question is one of those questions where there is no hard and fast rule to it. It's more like the question, imagine somebody asking you, oh, who should I marry? Or how do I marry a good spouse? Right? There's no like hard and fast rule. However, there are some pointers that you can do or that you can give to the person to help them understand what to do and how to progress so that they can be able to marry a good spouse or be the best spouse or best version of themselves for their spouse to ensure that they get the best out of their dating experience. And that's how really I wanted to approach this question of should I pay off my debts or should I save money? From my experience, just to give you a quick rundown of how I experienced, I had in my worst days, I had over $75,000 in credit card debts. My credit score was at 643 before I took it to a high of 812. And then I was this close to declaring bankruptcy before I was able to build a lot of credibility with lenders. And now I am sitting at above $220,000 in credit limits, plus my business credit lines. So I can tell you a little bit about what to do in terms of saving and also or paying off your debt. And to make it also, I used to struggle to save $500 per month. And in my high days when I was still working in corporate before I became an entrepreneur, because it's different, right? I used to save as high as $10,000 per month. Yes, per month. And so I have a lot of experience in telling you what to do in this case. With that said, I would say that there's a couple of things I want you to understand in this process when you think about your situation. You have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to confront the reality of your situation, and you have to know your numbers. I'll try my best to give you the best thing that you can do depending on your situation and on your finances. But I'll say the number one thing you want to do is ask yourself questions. So when you start thinking like, should I pay off debt? Should I keep saving my money? There's no like say do this and do that. Instead, you should ask yourself a series of questions that will guide you in how to make the right choice. So number one thing, first things first, I want you to ask yourself is what kind of debt do you have? Do you have good debts or do you have bad debts? You're going to see me moving around screen because I'm looking at my other screen here with my notes. You're going to ask yourself like, do you have good debts or bad debts? Reference my other videos on the difference between good debt and bad debt. But a quick breakdown is good debts usually put money in your pocket, or at the best level they put money in your pocket, or at the low end they provide a return on investment. Example: debts to acquire a business that produces profits over time, but produces cash flow. That's good debt. That's on the high end. On the low end, I would say that a student loan debt could be a good debt, but that's controversial. But as an example, like a student loan, let's say you took a loan of $200,000 to become a lawyer or a doctor, but then you got a job and you're making 250K, 300K per year, and you've been there for like 7 years, right? So that's like how many are like 7x return on your loans. Hopefully you pay it off, right? So that's an example of like on the low end of good debt. And then bad debt is of course things like cars, things like I would even argue that houses are bad debt until you pay them off because they keep taking money from you. You pay yearly insurance, you pay yearly mortgage taxes, you do house maintenance, you do your lawn, you plow the snow. So these are taking money from your pocket. I would say it's a long-term investment for sure. And it just really depends on how you look at it from your finances. But I would say, like, from my experience, good debts usually either puts money in your pocket or provides multiple X on return for your investment. And bad debts take money out of your pocket, they drain you, they give you headache, you just don't want them. And so the number one question I want you to ask yourself as you think about this is, oh, not number one, no, I said number one is good debt and bad. Number two is, do you have a constant income to back up your current lifestyle? So in trying to approach should I pay off my debt or have savings? You want to ask yourself, do I have enough income to sustain whatever I'm doing? So right now, you're in a job that is salaried, are you an entrepreneur, you have a business working, because whatever actions you take is going to keep rippling. Example, if you pay off your debt right now and next month you lose your job, that's not a good situation to be at. But on the other end, let's say you pay off your debts now, but then your business needs a lot of cash flow to buy more products, or you need cash flow to pay payroll, right? You want to think about those situations. Do you have constant income or cash flow to rebuild if you do proceed to pay off your debt? That's a question you should be asking yourself. Like I said, I'm not going to go to tell you pay off debts or don't pay off debt. Like, no, it's just, there's no, you have to think about your situation. But with my framework that I use, that I'm giving you, they're going to answer those questions yourself as honestly as you want, as you can. And then I'm guaranteeing you, if you follow the same framework, you'll be able to determine clear cut if you should pay off your debts or you should keep saving. So you ask yourself, do you have constant income or some level of cash flow to keep coming in once you pay off this debt? So example, you're owing $10,000 and you have 12K in savings. You pay off the $10,000 in credit card debt. What else is next for you? You have 2K left in savings. If you have a job next month, then you just keep going and start saving your money, right? So that's an example of if you have a level of guarantee. Case in point, one of my students, she was owing, I think, $3,500 or so in a Discover credit card, and she had like about 4,000 or 4,500, something like higher than that. And then she was carrying this credit card debt because she was like, oh, I don't know if I should pay it off. I should just keep making like minimum payments for some extra. And I looked at her finances. She had a good job. I thought I'd just pay off your credit card debt because in this case, she had no credit card debt, and that was the only debt that she was servicing, right? She had credit card debt. She had a car note, but she wasn't in order to pay it off. She had a student loan, but she was making normal payments, so she was on track. But credit card was at 25% interest rates, so it just made sense for her to just go ahead and pay off the credit cards and be free. And in that case, she did that. And when she did that, she experienced two things. One, her credit score went up, and number two, peace of mind went higher. So she's like, oh, now you feel good to be there. I said, yeah, just pay off your credit cards and then just be done with your student loans, making normal payment on it. And another framework to consider yourself to ask when looking at this is, do you have a backup plan in case you lose your income? So remember I asked you before, like, what's your plan in terms of like what happens if you pay off your debt and you lose your income, but you have a backup plan. Example, you have maybe your 401k, you have some good for maybe like 6 figures in your 401k or high 5 figures like 70K. So worst case, God forbid, you get laid off from your W2 employment, you have some backup to go. Or if your spouse is working, so that means you can just work on your debts while your spouse keeps paying the bill. Or in this case, maybe a family that can house you in case you want to take care of those bills and you have to like downsize. Whatever it is, you have to have a backup plan because you want to be making informed decisions that will help you to make the right choice. Example, for me, when I was paying off my debts, thank God I had my wife, right? My wife was working. So if I stopped working, my wife's income could augment us for a while. And because I had structured our expenses to depend on one income, we are good to go. So if you don't have that kind of backup, they have to reevaluate and see like what's your backup plan if you pay off your debt and to my other point, you lose your income. For me, I had a backup plan. So when I was paying off my debts, my wife was working and we just kept going. And she had like a stable job. She had like a stable job, they were producing. So there was really not much reason for me to be worried about that. So all my money that I was getting, I was just putting towards my debts. I was paying my debt every month. That's why I think at my highest, I was able to make as high as $9,000 towards a particular credit card, just pay it off right at the peak in the month. So you have to think about that. Like that's another thing you have to think about, like what's your backup plan? Then another question you should ask yourself is how much is the debt you're looking at? Like what is this kind of debt you're looking at? What debt do you want to get paid off? And maybe this should have been my number one question, but it just depends. Again, you're looking at the frameworks, right? You're asking yourself different questions. Now, what debt do you want to pay off? Is it credit card debt? Is it personal loans? Is it car loans? Is it student loans? Is it your mortgage? Is it your furniture payments, or is it like a house repair, like home equity line of credit, whatever it is you want to like get clear on what you want to pay off and determine what you're looking at to pay for. So you know what debt you want to pay off. You're thinking about it. Maybe you decide you want to be a credit card. Okay, credit card example is because it's most popular or personal loans. And then you determine like how much is this interest rate. You have to understand like how much are you paying for interest on a monthly basis. You have to understand how much are you paying for. This is where people get a little bit overwhelmed because they don't want to do the numbers. They're like, oh, like you have to do the numbers. There's no other way around it. You have to do the numbers, like literally. You have to like look at your statements, look at your interest. So, for example, I had a client that was, or had a student. Let me use a student that I was working with who had a ridiculous high interest rate. She had triple digits of interest. So she was paying about 160, 400, 300% on interest. It made no sense for her to just save her money because she was paying ridiculous amounts of money on her interest, on her personal loans. So the number one thing for her to do was just to pay it off. So with all I'm getting, thankfully she had a spouse that was working, and so she just put the money towards the debts, and then that's how she was able to break free. But in that kind of case, you have to understand like what does your debt entail? How much are you paying in interest? How much are you paying on a monthly basis? And compare it to your savings. For example, she was earning about $10,000 and paying about 1,500 to 2,000 bucks per month on interest alone. That's mind blowing, right? Exactly. So it made no sense for her to be saving. In fact, any money that she had, she was just pouring it into that debt because as much as she had that debt as long as she had that debt coming in, she was losing money actually because even if she's saving like 2K or 1K per month, she's paying 1.5 on interest plus minimum payment. And that was causing her a lot of strain and stress. So one thing about that, like what is the debt that you have and how can you compartmentalize it to understand the numbers? There's no other way around this. You have to know your numbers. Another question that you can ask yourself is if the debt is reasonable, so for example, you have like a credit card debt of like $10,000, maybe you want to pay it off in 1 year, but then you are able to have a surplus of about 2,000 or 1,500 bucks per month, right? So again, knowing your numbers, you have to know your numbers. There's no other way around this. You have to know your numbers because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know where to get from. So, like I said, an example is let's say you want to pay off $10,000 in a year, but you bring in about 1,500 bucks extra in surplus. In that case, you can actually split it. That's another scenario. You can actually split it. So instead of paying 1,500 bucks per month towards credit card, just pay like you can pay like 1,000 bucks per month towards a credit card and 500 bucks per month towards your savings. So that way you're still like eating some savings goal. So at the end of the year, you end up with about $6,000 in your savings in 1 year, and you'd have paid off your credit card balance by the 10th month. I guarantee you that there's no how if you are owing $12,000 on your credit card debts and you're paying interest that by the 10th month of making 1K every month, it will not have reduced. There's no how because the interest only builds on the principal. So the more money you throw towards the principal, the faster you actually pay off your debts. Or you can actually do half and half. So instead of paying maybe 1,000 bucks towards debt, you could pay 750, but it take a little bit longer to pay off that credit card debt. You have to be willing to juggle the numbers, which is there's no other way to say this. You have to know your numbers. For personal finance requires numbers. If you hate numbers, that means you hate money management. Basically, that is it. You have to know your numbers. You have to know what works for you. You have to know how much you bring in. You have to know how much you spend. You have to know what your surplus is. You have to be able to forecast and see, okay, if I bring 500 bucks per month over 12 months, this is what's going to be for me. If I bring in 1,000 bucks per month over 24 months, this is what it's going to be for me. You have to know your numbers. Now, another situation is if the debt you have is 0% APR. So an example again, I had this experience. One of my debts that I was paying off back then had this 0% APR. Right? It was a the reason why I don't want to talk about it is because I don't want to brag it, but it's like it was a timeshare and I basically had like a 0% APR. So there was no rush for me to pay it off because it was like interest free. I had made some payments, so it was interest free for the rest of the loan terms. So there was no rush for me to pay. So I just kept saving my money. And I was making like 150, 160 bucks per month on payments. And I put the rest towards savings because there was no rush for me to pay it off. Right. So in that kind of case, to now you now have to pay off the debt with 0% APR. Another case in point actually is if you have a credit card debt that you're carrying and it's 0% APR, probably be a little bit of thing on your credit reports. But if it's zero APR and you just focus on paying it off during that time frame of 0% APR, I would say focus on paying that one first, also saving, because again, after the APR time expires, it's going to be interest rate that kicks in. So we want to avoid that. And then on this part of framework, you have to think about like what's your mentality. Do you like debts? Are you okay carrying balances, or you you just hate having balances? For me, I'm in between. There are times when I hate just carrying balances, and there are times when I don't mind carrying balances. So, for example, right now, the way I think about it is if I have a 0% APR credit card, I could be fine carrying balances for a while because I could put that money towards something else, towards another investment. Like I'm an entrepreneur, I have a couple of businesses. So I could put that cash flow, something, and then allow it to create more interest or more returns for me. And then in due time, I pay off the credit card that I have. But if some people don't like balances at all. So they want to pay it off like as soon as possible. It all works like it depends on what you are comfortable with and what your mindset is. So I would say those are the things you should look at from the framework. Again, let's run to that framework again so that we reinforce learning. Number one framework is it a good or a bad debt? Number two is, do you have constant income to rebuild if you empty your savings and put it towards your debt that you're trying to pay? Number three is, what is your backup plan, right? You want to think about, do I have a backup plan in terms of, again, similar to the income, but do I have a wife? Do I have a 401k backup? Do I have some investment that I can lean into if cash gets crunchy for me, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you have to do payroll or buy products? Number four is, what kind of debt do you have? What is the composure? How much is it? What is the interest rate like? How much are you paying on a monthly basis? What do you want to get rid of? You have to get clear on those things. And number five is, you want to think about like, do I want to split it into savings and debt payment, or what? Like, because again, you could do both. The number six framework you think about is, what's your mentality? Do you just hate carrying balances and you want to be aggressive and pay it off, or you're okay carrying balances? Those are the things you can think about, and then you can figure out like how you want to go about it when it comes to either figuring out to pay off your debt or savings. Now that we've talked about those frameworks that I can use to, the next thing I want to go about is a little bit technical and tactical. This is where you got to know your numbers. Whenever somebody comes to me and tells me, "Oh, should I pay off my debts or should I, save money?" I want to ask them, "What's your current budget?" You have to have your budget. Like there's no other way about this. Your budget is your lifeline. It's a financial plan to freedom. I don't care what the world says. It's restrictive. Is talent. I don't care. Governments, companies that spend billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars on their economy, on their businesses, have budgets. Please, who are you as an individual, as an employee, as a business owner that will not have a budget? So you have to have a solid budget. And when I say budget, I don't mean just having something that is blank or that is not living. Like you have to know your numbers. How much is your spending power? How much do you spend on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, on a quarterly basis, and how much do you have left over? Because you cannot even approach savings or paying off your debt if you don't have a solid track record, if you don't have a solid understanding of your current finances. So very important. That's number one thing you think about when trying to pay off your debts or save. What's your budget? Then number two, once you have your budget, look at the next thing is, how much surplus do you have a month, or how much excess is, whatever it is, how much savings. Like at the end of the month, after paying off your bills, what's left? You always want to have a lot more than just the bare minimum. And so you don't look at those things because that would now help you to determine how much can you put towards investing, sorry, towards saving or towards paying off your debts. You want to think about, if I have this surplus available, where am I going to put them to use the most? And then number three is, now ask yourself the honest truth. Is there room for improvement in my surplus? Because you have to be honest with you, like ask yourself, just be honest. You have to always be optimizing. Don't be slack and say, oh, well, I'm saving 500 bucks, I'm okay. No. What if you could save 1,000 bucks and accelerate your pathway towards saving for your financial goals or paying off your debts faster than you planned? So be honest with yourself. Like every year, my wife and I sit down to look at what are the ways we can cut our cost or like optimize for spending. Like what can we cut back this year? What can we do? Not because we are broke or we are austere, just because it's just good stewardship. Don't get into that mindset that, oh, I don't need to cut any more costs. I work so hard. You have to always be improving. It's called continuous improvement for a reason. So you want to always think about that when working on your finances. And then my favorite part of money is paying yourself first. Once you know how much you bring in surplus, start paying yourself first. This is not a call for budgeting, but I'm going to do a class on that one later. But you want to always pay yourself first every month. So regardless of what you are doing, either you're saving or you're investing, always have that money get marked. Like no negotiation, no arguments. Every month I must put some amount for that towards my savings or my financial goals of savings or paying off my debt. Period. Always pay yourself first. And once you know that, execute on it. Either you have auto pay. I'm a pro, like I said, I'm a king. I don't even do auto pay. I keep because I know that I know my spending, I know my budgeting. So I don't even do auto pay to my own savings account. I just move it myself later because I know I'm going to do it anyway. Because my spending and my spending and my brain is wired towards having that excess every month. Okay, so you have to always have that mindset and execute on it. Based on the above that I've shared with you, ask yourself now, what would your next steps be? Because there's no point to you hearing all of these tactics and strategies without implementing it. Sit down and ask yourself, do you have a backup plan? Or how much is what debt you want to figure out to pay off? Is it a bad debt? What is the component of the debt? How much surplus do you have in a month? And then work on the next steps. Now, assuming you've not been able to figure out from the framework I gave you on how to go about this, you want to think about how can I avoid the traps? Because from my experience, again, when people get into this frenzy or into this cycle of making this momentum, they get carried away. Say, for example, now, thank God you're debt free now. What do you do next? You want people to do that money that they were putting towards debt, $500 or $700, they're going to take on more debt. Now they want to buy a new car. Now they want to buy new furniture. Now they want to improve their house. Now, those are all good things to have, but think about it, right? Before you had these debts, before you paid up this debt, you were paying off your debts, right? That money that you have, you can try to put it towards an investment or towards your savings. Just keep keeping that money. Because again, start building your emergency funds. If you've been able to pay off a particular debt, think, should I pay off more debts or now build my emergency savings, build my emergency fund, build my lifestyle fund? You always want to use that money to do something and avoid taking on more debts unless it's necessary and important. You want to avoid taking on more debt. Like, why? You're already free from more. Don't take on more. Because the mind is going to think, wow, I have this free money available. What can I do next? I need to spend this money. But no, that's where you have to have self-discipline and say, hey, no more of this. I'm going to work on saving my money and ensuring that I do not like take on more debts that needed for my finances. Number two step to avoid is now that you've gotten your surplus, or let's say you don't want to take on more, they're like, well, I've worked so hard to pay my debts. I want to splurge. I get it. You work so hard. Maybe splurge, but don't make it continuous. Don't make it continuous. Just maybe go for a treat, maybe go for a massage, whatever you maybe buy yourself a nice purse and then pause there. Like don't make it constant. So that people are like, well, now I have this surplus available. What can I do? Oh, I'm getting my hair done. Oh, now instead of getting my hair done every 2 months, I'm getting my hair done every month. Oh, instead of getting my nails done every 2 weeks, I get my nails done every week. Oh, instead of me trying to travel once a year, I want to travel every quarter. Whatever it is, avoid the urge to splurge. These are the ways lifestyle inflation creeps in and affects your finances. Number three, sometimes in your journey, you have some month that you make mistakes. Let's say you had an emergency come up and so you couldn't make a payment that month. You get distracted, like, oh well, what's the point? Don't give up. No, you do not give up. You keep going, you keep pushing, you keep leaning in, you keep diving in. Like if this month you fall off, next month you get back up again. There's no need to be discouraged. There's no need for you to be sad about, oh yeah, this month I didn't make a payment, or last month, or maybe the last 2 months you're not able to make payments because your car broke down and you have to fix the car. Or maybe you had an hospital bill that you could not pay and so you have to like put that money towards the hospital bill. Or maybe something happened at your home, you have to fix whatever it is. Once you are done with that part, don't allow a bad month or a couple of bad months to throw you off. It's about the long-term goal. And that leads to my fourth part, like keep the long-term goal in mind. You got to think about, like, what's my goal? I'm trying to be debt free in, X months or X years, whatever it is. Let that keep spurring you up, and that keep keeping you, and so you keep the long-term goal in mind. And with that, I want to leave you with one last piece of encouragement: be consistent. Because this money game is a long-term game. You have to be consistent. You have to be able to understand and think to yourself and say, like, some months I may fall off, but if I keep putting the inputs over time, every day, every week, every month, I will get the goals. In my coaching program, I always tell people every time, never ask yourself, will I succeed? It's how much success will I have? Because I don't guarantee anything in life, but I can guarantee you one thing. If you continue to put in the inputs day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, it is not possible you will be successful. It's just what it is, not because of the inputs. You cannot control the outputs, but what you can control is your inputs. Are you consistent? Are you tracking your expenses? Are you putting away money every month? Are you trying to live below your means? Are you trying to take action towards reducing those balances or increasing your savings? I'm telling you, if you keep doing these things every day, every time, before you know it, you get to your goal, and soon and very soon, you'll either be debt free or you'll be able to build up your savings much faster than you planned possible. And with that, I'm going to open it for questions. I'll stop recording, but if you have any questions, put in the chat, type in there and ask me. I'm going to stop the recording and take on more questions from the class. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Remember to subscribe to the video and share or leave some comments in the box. Until next time, bye for now.